In this place where time is money and volume is money, in real terms, what will this mean for commerce?
Erdogan is famously fond of mega projects. He recently launched his biggest and boldest one to date. The billion-dollar project is far too costly given Turkey's economic struggles and might cause an environmental disaster.
What if I told you one of the most important waterways on Earth is quietly reaching its breaking point? A narrow ribbon of water that looks calm, even romantic, but holds the fate of entire nations in its currents. A place where a single stalled ship can ripple through global markets, military strategies, and everyday life for millions of people. That waterway or route is the Bosphorus, and now Turkey wants to build something that could change everything. At first glance, the Bosphorus doesn't look like a global pressure valve. It winds gently through Istanbul, separating Europe from Asia in a way that feels almost poetic. Ferries glide back and forth carrying commuters with tea in hand. Tour boats drift past palaces that once housed emperors. Seagulls circle overhead as if this were just another scenic river. But beneath that calm surfer face is one of the most strategic choke points on the planet. Every single vessel entering or leaving the Black Sea must pass through this narrow strait. Oil tankers, grain ships, warships, submarines, fishing boats. If it moves in or out of the Black Sea, it passes here. There is no alternative route, no bypass, no backup. And that's exactly the problem. In a single year, tens of thousands of ships squeeze through a channel that twists sharply and narrows to less than a kilometer wide in places. Unlike artificial canals built for modern shipping, the Bosphorus was carved by nature, not engineers. Its curves create blind corners. Its currents run in opposing layers, pushing vessels unpredictably. Even the most experienced captains describe navigating it as threading a needle while the needle moves. For Istanbul's residents, this isn't abstract geopolitics. It's daily life. More than 1 million people cross the Bosphorus every day. When traffic stalls, ferries stop, roads clog. The city holds its breath. One accident in the wrong place can freeze Istanbul in minutes. And those accidents aren't hypothetical. In 2018, a massive cargo ship lost control and slammed straight into a historic waterfront mansion. Centuries-old architecture was reduced to splinters in seconds. Videos of the crash spread instantly. Suddenly, what had long been an unspoken fear became impossible to ignore. The Bosphorus wasn't just crowded, it was dangerous. For Turkey's leadership, that crash was a warning shot. If one ship could cause that much damage, what would happen if a fully loaded oil tanker lost control? Or if multiple ships stalled at once? The risks weren't just economic anymore. They were cultural, environmental, and human. That's when an old idea returned. An idea so ambitious it had been dismissed for centuries. The concept is simple to describe and terrifying to imagine. A second waterway. Artificial strait. Engineered for modern megaships. A canal that would run parallel to the Bosphorus, carving through the European side of Istanbul and connecting the Black Sea directly to the Sea of Marmara. It's called Canal Istanbul, and it's being called one of the boldest engineering gambles of the century. Supporters frame it as a safety valve, a way to reduce congestion, a controlled route where ships can pass without threatening historic neighborhoods. A solution designed by humans, not geology, but critics see something else entirely. A project that could permanently alter Istanbul's environment, redraw geopolitical lines, and hand Turkey unprecedented control over one of the world's most sensitive regions. 2. To understand why this canal terrifies so many people, you need to understand the power already tied to the Bosphorus. Control the Bosphorus, and you control access between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. That means influence over Russia's naval movements, Ukraine's grain exports, Romania and Bulgaria's trade. NATO's ability to position foe forces, even Europe's energy supply routes. This isn't just shipping, it's leverage. That leverage is partially governed by the Montreux Convention, a treaty signed in 1936. It limits which warships can pass, how long they can stay, and under what conditions. In times of war, Turkey gains extraordinary authority. During the conflict in Ukraine, the world suddenly remembered just how powerful that authority is. Now imagine a second route. A man-made canal not bound by the same historical assumptions. A route Turkey could regulate independently. Set fees for, control access to, adjust rules based on shifting politics. That's why this project is being watched far beyond Turkey's borders. But Canal Istanbul isn't a new obsession. It's a 500-year-old dream. Ottoman planners considered carving a second waterway as early as the 1500s. Sultans revisited the idea again and again. Each time it collapsed under financial strain, political instability, or technical limits. The dream never died. It just waited. When Turkey's current leadership revived the plan, it wasn't framed as a new idea. It was presented as destiny finally catching up. The proposed canal would stretch roughly 45 kilometers, wide enough for the largest cargo ships on Earth, deep enough to handle modern tankers that struggle in the Bosphorus, straight, predictable, and engineered to eliminate blind turns. On paper, it looks like a masterpiece. In reality, it cuts through lakes, faux forests, farmland, and densely populated zones. It would create an artificial island where western Istanbul becomes physically separated from the rest of the city. And that's where the controversy explodes. Environmental scientists warn the canal could disrupt freshwater reservoirs that supply much of Istanbul's drinking water. Saltwater intrusion could contaminate lakes that millions depend on. Marine biologists fear altering the flow between the Black Sea and the Sea of Marmara could trigger chemical imbalances, including oxygen depletion and toxic gas release. Geologists raise another alarm. Much of the planned route runs through soil prone to liquefaction during earthquakes. Istanbul sits dangerously close to major fault lines. Critics argue that carving a massive canal through unstable ground could amplify FI disaster risks rather than reduce them. Then there's the human factor. Urban planners estimate the canal corridor could attract up to 2 million new residents. New luxury districts, high-rises, commercial hubs. That means more traffic, more strain on infrastructure, more pressure on a city already stretched thin. Supporters argue this growth is inevitable anyway. Better to control it than let it sprawl chaotically. Opponents say it's exactly the opposite of what Istanbul needs. Instead of earthquake-proofing buildings, improving public transport, and strengthening water security, critics argue Turkey is pouring billions into a prestige project designed to leave a political legacy, and the money is staggering. Estimates hover around $10 billion, with construction expected to last 7 years or more. Financing relies heavily on private investment, but the state is prepared to step in if needed. Thousands of workers, mountains of earth moved, entire landscapes reshaped, and that's just the visible cost. Behind the scenes, allegations swirl. Reports claim land along the canal route was purchased, eerily by politically connected figures and faux foreign investors. Property values skyrocketed. Toto critics, the canal began to look less like a safety project and more like a real estate machine. Surveys suggest a large majority of Istanbul residents oppose the canal. The city's mayor has repeatedly called it unnecessary and dangerous, arguing the same budget could be used to make the city safer against earthquakes. Yet construction has already begun on supporting infrastructure. Which brings us to the biggest unanswered question: what happens if the canal is built and ships don't use it? The Bosphorus is free to pass under international law. Canal Istanbul would likely charge fees. Shipping companies are notoriously cost-sensitive. If delays in the Bosphorus remain manageable, many may choose to wait rather than pay. There's also the long-term wild card. Global trade is changing. Energy markets are shifting. Fossil fuel transport may decline in coming decades. If tanker traffic drops, the very congestion you seed to justify the canal could ease on its own. A $10 billion canal risks becoming obsolete before it pays for itself. And yet, if it succeeds, the payoff could be enormous. Turkey would gain a new revenue stream independent of old treaties, a powerful bargaining chip in regional politics, a rebranded role as the gatekeeper of Black Sea trade. For Russia, this raises deep unease. A new route could weaken the legal shield that limits NATO naval presence. Even the possibility of altered access is enough to reshape military planning. For NATO, the canal represents flexibility, options, leverage. For Europe, it's both opportunity and risk. For Istanbul, it's a gamble on the city's future. And for the world, it's a reminder that geography still shapes power. Even in the age of satellites and digital trade, when you carve a new strait between two seas, you don't just move water. You move influence. You shift alliances. You rewrite maps that have remained stable for centuries. The question now isn't whether Canal Istanbul is possible. It's whether the world is ready for the consequences if it works, or if it doesn't. Because once you dig a canal through the heart of a city like Istanbul, there's no turning back.